Live now.
Cool.
Great, we are live. Hi everyone and welcome to Online Events Made Simple. After a week off, I'm feeling refreshed, excited to come back. I'm Rianne, the Marketing and Events Manager at Ondemand, and today we're joined with the lovely Rachel Sheerin, where it's looking a lot sunnier. How are you, Rachel? Would you like to introduce yourself?
I am doing so well. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hello, aloha from my home studio. I'm based here in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the United States. And professionally, I'm a keynote speaker focused on burnout, and I'm also a hybrid event MC. And then
Mm,
personally, I'm a dog mom to this guy here in the background. This is Bricks for everybody watching.
so cute.
And yeah, I just am really looking forward to spring and summer. I don't know about you, Rianne,
Yeah,
but I am
so true.
so excited about sunnier days and warmer weather and the comeback that we're seeing of events. And I think, honestly, the explosion of opportunity that's coming in the industry.
Yeah, super, super excited. And it's so much sunnier where you are. I'm so jealous. We've had like some really nice sun in London, but it's
Oh,
definitely not as sunny and warm as America, I don't
well,
think.
I'm going to send some vibes your way
Yeah,
just immediately.
hopefully. It's so nice having you on today. So we had a week off of Online Events Made Simple, the podcast, which was really strange. And I felt like on a Wednesday, it's always my nice time to chat, just chat away to someone different. Yeah, so super excited to have you on. So I guess where do you fit within the event space? Everyone we have on the podcast kind of falls within specialist in live events, virtual events, hybrid. Whereabouts do you fall? Because I know you kind of do a bit of everything within the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what stage in my career we were going to talk about. I mean, I have a background originally in catering and special events. So I came
Yeah.
up through the social and corporate market with a background in catering. And, when I like to say retired from catering, when I liberated from catering, I was doing a lot of off-prem catering work. And I was the director of sales. I loved what I did for a very, very long time. I loved my clients, I loved my team. And I definitely love the industry. I mean,
Mm,
I'm a big proponent of associations like NACE and ILEA and MPI and PCMA and all the other global associations that we have. But the long story short of it was I burned out. And I burned out, I mean, like, whoo, just crash and burn and
mm.
flames and swear words and just, I mean, it was not pretty, Rand. And I have to tell you, when I burned out, I took a serious look at myself and said, okay, what happened? Because I still maintain that events are the best industry in the entire world. I love
Agree.
I loved my clients, I mean, I was working in catering too, which I don't know about you, but I have seen food transform people.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Absolutely.
frenemies to friends, enemies to at least, like collaborators,
Mm.
people that really liked each other already. I mean, they're like hugging and kissing by the end of it. It's
Yeah.
great, right? Good food changes everything. And so, I started to explore like what happened. And that's when I discovered that I'd really burned out. And that's where I really flipped the script after about a year sabbatical and saying, okay, what happened? Working a lot on myself, going to therapy weekly, and really just being honest with myself and saying I burned out.
Mm.
Here's where I got lost along the way, and starting to have one-on-one conversations with other people. And I realized in the whispers of the industry, starting with the people that I knew, the whispers of, oh yeah, I'm burned out too. Oh yeah, that's happened to me too.
Yeah.
And I started to realize it was an elephant in the room. Now, mind you, this is 4 years ago at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. And I started to wonder, what is it about our industry specifically
Yeah,
that
definitely.
we're just not okay talking about like struggling or not loving what we're doing anymore or changing our identities and what we're doing. And anyway, the long story short is now I'm on the opposite side. I was, I'd like to think, I was on the catering side. Now
Mm.
I'm on the event performer side or the supplier side, where I'm still part of, associations, annual meetings, conferences, things like that. And I do a small bit of training for CVBs or visitors bureaus, things like that,
Super
where I'm really,
busy.
yeah, I'm really helping. Honestly, I'm on a mission really to help people that love their work
Yeah.
stay in love with their work
Yeah,
and
that's
do
so true.
work with teams that they love, for people they love, for places and companies, organizations, clients. Um, municipalities that they love. And that's to me really important. So I do work on a small training scale with some CVBs so that we can keep great event and hospitality professionals doing the work so that we can keep
Mm,
attracting great events, great programs, great groups to our areas. But,
yeah.
90% of my business, you'll catch me on the keynote and MC stage. Just
Yeah, definitely
bringing
on LinkedIn,
energy.
very active with your keynote, which is amazing. I think it's super exciting. But burnout, we were just saying before we went live for people listening, burnout is so real. I think everyone has either gone through it, won't admit to going through it, or knows someone who's gone through it, especially this past year when working from home, you tend to work longer hours. I mean, it's so difficult. And like you said, I think the events industry is known to be one of the most stressful. And I completely agree. I think it is one of the most stressful, but so, so worth it. So
Yeah.
it's definitely knowing how to kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
For people listening, probably event organizers that might be going through burnout right now, stressing themselves out about, should they go virtual? Should they go back to live? What should they do? What advice would you have for people who are burning out? I know it seems as simple as just have a day off or take some break, but I know there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, this is such a good question because I wish it was as easy as like going to get a pedicure or
Yeah,
having a bottle of wine or like 6 margaritas, which by
yeah.
the way, I've tried all of those solutions for everyone and it has not worked. I mean, it's worked for a minute, but I think, one of the things that I found really helpful through, the research that I've done through, at this point, the thousands of performances I've given and just the people I've talked to, the folks coming up hugging afterwards or calling or
Yeah,
emailing is I think one of the keys is you have to identify what's burning you out. To me,
so
it
true.
starts with, is it your clients and the people that you serve are burning you out? Is it the people that, is it the people that you're trusting? Is it your team members, your leaders? Is it your
Yeah,
personal family, right? They can burn you out. I mean, we all have family members that feel like a job, right?
yeah.
I, let's
So
just call
true.
it what it is, right? And that's the funny thing about burnout is burnout's very work specific. It's not,
Yeah,
it's not so much like, oh, things are not going well in my personal life. No, this is burnout is specifically aimed at high performers that crush it. Just like you, that
yeah,
absolutely crush it at their job. And it's not the fact that you're not successful. That's, you are successful. It's
yeah.
the fact that you get success and you don't exactly love it. So you have to figure out what exactly is not going well or that's grinding you down. And I think the third option that I found is that sometimes burnout happens because the success that we have and the success that we really want, the person that we're being, the person that we really are, they're different things.
Yeah.
And to me, that's always a very eyes wide open conversation that you get to have with yourself. And I mean, that might really require a cocktail to talk more about, but I would say, there's power in looking at the monster under the bed. What is burning you out? What is grinding your
Mm,
gears? And then taking some ownership on saying, okay, how can I soften this? How can I mitigate the impact of this? Like, for example, I hear all the time, oh, my clients, my clients, my clients. Okay, set an expectation or a boundary with them.
yeah.
If your clients are calling you all hours of the night, first of all, turn off your phone and update your voicemail to say, I work between the hours of
Yeah.
9 a.m., 5 p.m., and put your time zone there. And
And
if
that's
you
so
have a ton of
simple as well, isn't it? I think it's something you just forget to do. Like, I know people who I've emailed have said like a nice response back saying, I will only check this during my work times, which I think is a great idea because I don't have that. And I mean, my manager, Shanti, knows if she's listening, I will check my emails throughout the night just because it's just your routine, isn't it? And that is obviously
yeah.
what leads to burnout.
Well, and here's the thing. I think what's really cool and liberating, and we have to keep in mind, is what's going to burn you out isn't what's going to burn me
Yeah.
out. So just because I don't set a boundary on my time, to be honest, I'm a night owl. So like
Mm,
I'll work when you're getting up in the morning, and
yeah.
we are. What are we? We're like 5 or 6 hours
Yeah.
apart because where are you based out of?
London. So we're
Yeah,
BFT. So I believe you're 5 hours behind or
yeah,
six.
we're in
I get
Eastern
confused.
time. Yeah. So like you might be up in the morning and I'm still like, ooh, I'm in the flow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it doesn't bug me. But the opposite side is really true. Like people closest to me or people that I trust, like those folks are more sensitive to burning me out. My clients less so, because I tend to set stronger boundaries just naturally with them.
Mm,
It's the people in my inner circles that I notice will burn me out. and to me personally, I have to watch out for all the things I have to do
Yeah,
or should do in my head. I'm
absolutely.
mostly the culprit of my own burnout,
Yeah.
at least in the past. And
I
I
think at
hope,
least you've noticed that as well. I think a lot of event
yeah,
organizers now, specifically the past year, have gone through so much strain and just tough decisions. I mean,
yeah.
as an MC, a keynote, everything else, how have you found the past year? Not just to do with burnout, but how have you found kind of adjusting, I guess? I know it's been a bit different in America with the restrictions and the rules, but how did you find it in terms of, I
Yeah.
guess, adjusting your career?
Yeah. You know, the funny thing, I think, funny is maybe not the right word, but I'll go with it for now. The funny thing about being in America, is that it's been such a roller coaster. And, you know,
Mm,
your neighbors that you can kind of see across the state line can be totally different, or people in different
so strange,
industries.
yeah.
And yeah, so there's a lot of like survivor's guilt in some areas. I think there's a lot of like anger in others. You know, I mean, it's all across the board. But I will say one of the things that, I mean, I know that is true is that I look at a lot of times challenges as what can you teach me?
Yeah,
And I have to do that, honestly, Rian, because if I don't, then I'm going to be like so bitter Betty about it. And I'm
yeah.
going to be like, this is really hard
I'm
and I'm
exactly
not
the same.
happy. And
I
like,
think, yeah, you always need to look at the positive side, which is sometimes so hard. But I
yeah.
think I'm getting better at that, where, something's bad, there's always something on the other side, or there's always something to learn, which I'm definitely getting so much better at.
Totally. Well, and you know, if you look at it as like a resume builder, if you look at it as an
Mm,
expertise elevator, if you look at it as a confidence and competence builder, then all of a sudden that changed the way I viewed setting up my home studio that you see here. And by the way, this is like the fourth or fifth iteration of it.
yeah.
God bless my husband. We call him King Sheerin on Instagram, but he has literally helped me move so many pieces of furniture, and I've taken over like our whole house. We don't have a giant
It's
house,
amazing.
but it's made me think about buying a giant house one of
Yeah.
these days. Um, but I will say, you know, the other thing that it's really made me think about is like, you know, of course, like looking for the blissful challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to be so grateful when something is easy again, because it hasn't been easy in a long time. I
Yeah.
think the other side too, and this is just for all event professionals as well, but I think we forget how much influence and sway we have over our clients.
Yeah.
We have over our, whether it's an association board or staff or peers, fellow vendors. The
Mm,
truth of the matter is Rand, if we enjoy it, if we like it, our clients are going to like it.
yeah.
And that's where
Completely agree.
I dove in like head first with virtual and digital events, because I was like, okay, people need me. And the first like week or two of the pandemic, I was doing daily 30-minute webinars. I'd never done, I think I'd done maybe 2 webinars before in my entire life. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything, you know? But I'm saying, okay, how do we negotiate contracts? And this is all for hospitality and event pros. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm doing a virtual event. Oh, you
Yeah.
know, we're going to need this. I'm thinking we'll be out of this in 6 weeks. I'm just trying to help, you know, my event pro friends that I see, like we're all in the same boat. We're all getting tons of
Yeah.
reschedules.
It's a really
And
important note.
now, yeah, now I think like, you know, I think I'm doing today with AFR and All Seated. And this is event 143 and 144.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and it's been, you know, so fun. The idea of like, oh my gosh, from here to there, like where's the success and you know, keynoting for 20,000 people and you know, being on site. I've done 4 in-person virtual hybrid events, you know, where we have an in-person audience and a digital audience. And I'm
Yes.
like, well,
Yeah.
how do you wager that success? And I'm like, I've loved it. And people like pick up on that energy. I haven't even had coffee.
Yeah,
Like
I was just
my
saying
energy
before we went live,
for
you look
real.
so much more awake than I am, and it's what, 2:15 in the afternoon for us. But we were saying before this, I think the buzz of events, again, going back to virtual events, I think the buzz of live events is really coming back. I can really sense it in so many people's LinkedIn posts, their videos, their chats. Everyone's almost fell back in love with the industry, which is what I love, because I've got a live events background. Now I'm in virtual, I can really see, virtual's here to stay as a kind of, I guess, a side hustle.
I think it's
How have
both.
you found hybrid? Yeah, because I know that you've done a lot of hybrid work, should we say. How did you find that? Because I think people are still kind of, number one, unsure what it even is. Number
Yeah.
two, how to host them successfully, because it is hard. Like, your audiences are in two different places, which is so difficult, or probably more than two actually, because they're going to be global. And number three, how to actually engage the audience. I think it's still a bit of a tricky subject for everyone.
That's a great. So I hear three questions in that. I think
Yeah.
one's from like the event pro side. I think one's from like the event supplier, like a keynoter
Yeah.
or like a strategist side about engagement. And then there was the third question, which now I've already forgotten. So let's take
Engagement.
it from the like, well, I will say, you were asking about like, hybrid, is it gonna be popular, also to how to find it. To
Yeah.
me, I think as event pros, we need to be some of the largest advocates very sincerely.
Yeah.
Again, what we like, our clients will like, but saying, okay, what are the benefits of hybrid? To me, equitable access. Tons of people who would not normally be able to attend these conferences will be. I
Yeah.
think that it is increased sponsorship opportunity if you're in, a market or an
Yeah.
event that needs sponsorship or has that available. Done. I also think too, it creates legacy opportunity so that on-demand content, replaying webinars, Q&A, all this kind of stuff. I mean, continuing education credits, if that's something that's important. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's done right there. I mean, what's better than getting, for example, like CMP credits? Right now you're able to log on and view, maybe recordings for CMP hours. Let's say it's 200 hours. Well, what if we had 2,000 hours available? Then you
Yeah.
could actually offer some very, very niche programming that could help people be the best certified medium planner. But think about that on every single one of our clients. I think that's the potential of hybrid. We just
Yeah.
have to really baby step folks and our clients and lay it out for them. Wow, look at these overwhelming benefits. And then the
Mm,
other side too is we have to concierge them with great partners and really get to know, okay, who is it that if you love working with me, who will you love working with, right?
yeah.
If you love their style and
Absolutely.
energy. We also have to be real too. What is it that our clients really need? Do they want to run the show? Do they need showrunners? Do they
Mm,
need do they want an all-in-one solution? Do they want, kind of like we were talking about, like virtual platforms right now, they can be a continental breakfast that is just like some danishes and coffee out on a buffet, or they can be a whole like interactive like
yeah.
sushi buffet experience. Or as we were talking, they can be
This
the
before we went
lady,
live, yeah.
yeah, they can be the lady with the champagne skirt, with the champagne flutes, that is very pretty to look at, but doesn't move around that well.
So
And you know
true.
what? For Karl Lagerfeld's foundation, where they're raising money for children, you know what? I don't think anybody needs to move around for Karl Lagerfeld's, which is, I'm sure they have a foundation, but like they
Yeah,
don't need to move
exactly.
around. They just needed to look really hot. And I'm sure that platform is perfect for that. So I
Yeah.
think having partners is key. I think for engagement side, that was your second question. I think it's about strategy. It's about, I start
Absolutely.
as an MC, I think about what would I want?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's what you need to do. Yeah.
right? Like
Take it
what
that
do you
personal.
want
Yeah.
as an
Exactly.
at-home like attendee? Like what have you desired or longed for or really enjoyed through all of this? Has there been anything that you're like, oh, I love this?
Do you know what? I actually recently went on a platform demonstration of a 3D platform, and I thought this was brilliant. Again, it's probably not for everyone, but I think it's really cool. And you have like an avatar, which again, is not relevant for all kind of events. But for me, I was like, this is great. It feels like I'm in The Sims.
See,
So I think
okay,
everyone has such different views, but I
I
love
love
it.
that. And when you say like I'm in The Sims, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, The Sims.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
of like generational ages, that's going to be amazing. There's going to be other groups like the steel industry. They're going to be like,
Yeah.
what are The Sims? And
Yeah.
so, like obviously because you're an event pro, you know your audiences, you know the availability. To me, one of the things about engagement, if I were to give like three quick takeaways, I think it's, set up the before events way more. As an MC, I do 7 pre-event videos. One
Wow,
of them is
amazing.
like an overview, and they're less than a minute each, but it's, what's this event, kind of a nuts and bolts thing. It's an introducing myself.
Yeah.
Hey, this is like, this is because I need to answer people's questions. What is this? Who the hell is this person? Why should I care? What's in it for me? Who's
Yeah.
going to be there? Is there anything cool, fun, unexpected? And like, oh, wait, when is this again? So these are kind of those videos I make. To me, we need to date more. before we marry our clients, like before we take them out on like the official date, because we only have like, we're basically 90-day fiance, like right now.
That's a
And
really great way of putting it though.
totally, we only have like one shot. And I feel like we've gotten, I don't want to say that we've gotten comfortable, but I think hybrid is going to be another year of, oh my gosh, we're going to have to try a lot
Yeah.
of new things again. And we can either look at this challenge as ugh or yay. And
Yeah.
I'm going with yay. So if you're here to join me, yay.
Yeah.
And I think another way that we can really engage is to say, okay, you know what? Are we going to, like, what analog things can we put back in? Like, to me, one of the things that I love is I'll start a waterfall very early on in the chat with approval from my clients, but
Mm,
I'll be like, hey, drop your LinkedIn in, like, this is in the opening sesh before I have introduced anybody. I'm like, we want to keep, if it's a multi-day conference, we want to keep this going long past conference.
yeah,
Go ahead
absolutely.
and drop your LinkedIn in the chat. Let's get everybody connected way offline. And what's amazing is that it allows the staff or the clients to get a full copy of all of their members'
Yeah,
LinkedIn so they can go add them afterwards. Beautiful
absolutely.
connection.
Yeah.
Then it allows everyone attending the conference to connect with each other like IRL internety. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're viewing from home, viewing from work, or viewing from the ballroom, like you're all cross, like, cross connecting. But the
I've done
other
that
thing is,
before as well. Like in events, I'm like, come and check me out. And the amount of people I've stayed in touch with, and I think it's great,
it's
which
so
you
good.
wouldn't do in a live event as such, because, I'm not, for example, we probably wouldn't have met if we were at a live event
No, we wouldn't
because
have.
the,
And
the location.
I love that. And I just like to say the third part is this idea of, let's make it analog. I have seen over 50 platforms at this point. I've known so many great production teams, and
Yeah.
I've loved, and I could tell you what I love about some, what I think are strengths, what I think are challenges, all the kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, dropping your link to your LinkedIn requires no knowledge of where to go to your profile, how to click on your settings, how to drop a business card online. It is analog. How can
Yeah.
we make it easy for attendees? And that's, I think, my biggest wish moving into hybrid events and just the next year. I keep going back to, how do we make it easy? Sometimes we give so many options. How do we make it easy? Show up as the expert for our clients, show up as the expert for the audience and say, do this, you're gonna love it. You
Yeah.
know, I think
And I
that's like
think it's
it.
all trial and error. I mean, I think so many people have just tried so much this year, and that's the only way of knowing. And we've just
Yeah.
had Carrie Abernathy say, "Hi team, that's a really good point, Rachel.
Hey,
Clients are
Carrie.
different with different needs." And I think that's something you always need to remember as an event prof. I mean, especially if you're new in the industry, I think you can get so set in your way and think, this person loved this thing, our next client will love this. And it's not the case. I think that's definitely something we found this year with virtual events specifically. Platforms are so different. Like you said, there's definitely more platforms out there that are more fun, more creative, more engaging, and there's some out there that are literally suited for a conference, a sit down conference, and that's it, which I think is fine because everyone has such different needs.
Totally.
um
One person's cool is another person's, how the heck does this work?
yeah,
And you're just spending
exactly.
all your time like in customer service being like, just click on the X, and nobody likes that.
Yeah, exactly. And what new standards do you think's out there from, I guess, a keynote point of view? I think it's definitely changed in the past year how you've been working online, now probably going back to live. What standards do you think's out there now? And do you think your career's got a bit more difficult, or do you think you're going to stick to virtual?
I absolutely love virtual and digital events, and I'll tell you why. It really is. It's part of the equity for me. I think it is. Some of the groups that I've been able to speak to, through this pandemic. One comes to mind. It was a large corporation, and it was their frontline truck drivers that I had the
Oh,
pleasure of
different.
speaking to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you would think about truck drivers, and I have to tell you, the emails and the chat that I got from this particular group, it was about 700 of them. First of all, they'd never heard a professional speaker. It was a program about motivation and about having a positive mindset and how they could influence themselves.
Interesting.
And it was really focused on their work, but also their family life, because I speak to the person first and the professional second.
Yeah.
And to hear, some of the things I got back from them were that I got this one email from this gentleman, and he said that he shared a personal story and he thanked me for my time. And then he said that I should know that he was going to be praying for me and my family
That's
because I
so
was doing
sweet.
like God's work. And he felt like I was an angel to him through this time. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, like I think that's one of the things that I really love. I also just want to say out loud too, I think it's nice to be watching things on demand.
Absolutely.
Also too, I'm a massive extrovert, so conferences are like, I love this.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
am like the hugger down the hallway. Like you see me coming and people are like, or they're
Yeah.
like, for introverts, I just want to say, I think virtual and hybrid gives a really cool alternative. If conferences are something
Yeah.
that drains you, you don't have to be everywhere all the time and, feel like you miss, if you want to watch from your hotel room and go back and forth. I think done well, it's really cool. But from a keynoting side, I will just say, I really hope that this is a death to working with people who are egotistical, who are difficult to work with. I've known, honestly, I've been surprised to see a lot of speakers who are, I would call them famous and very, very good, very good speakers. I'm surprised at how much they maybe checked out with virtual, how
Yeah.
it does not, it doesn't really go across screens really well.
Yeah.
And I do think it goes back to, people can tell whether you're faking it. I mean,
Yeah.
we know whether
Absolutely.
we're faking it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think people can tell it. And I also think too, and this is something is just really refreshing. I'm thrilled for. When I first realized I wanted to be a motivational speaker and be on stage and stuff and an MC, I was a little bummed, to be quite honest, because I was
Mm.
like, oh God, one of those corny people. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's gonna be such a bummer. And then I had to challenge myself and I said, okay, well, what is it that I'll do differently? Like, why do I not like this? And what I started to realize was I felt like a lot of speakers are very disingenuous. They
Yeah.
either like say the same can thing or they're lying. Like I've seen so many speakers that will talk about being kind on stage and yell at the banquet server in the green room.
And you
And that
hear
just
that so much with like influencers and like celebrities or like on stage, online. They are so nice. And you hear like they're horrible.
Yeah. And to me, and this really does motivate me, as corny as it sounds, but if I want the change, I have to be the change. And I'm somebody that, like, when I go to stay at a hotel, I still take the little bottle of shampoo and conditioner and lotion because I'm like, look
I,
at how nice this is.
I
Like,
do that. Yeah.
I've stayed at like such a nice place because I really do feel so incredibly blessed. And like, I feel so incredibly thankful. And I think that's one of the cool things is that there has been such a push towards sincerity and authenticity. I think you
Yeah.
can smell the BS. I think there's also been a really great push towards more diverse voices on stage, more women, more
Mhm.
body diversity, more Black people and Indigenous folks and Latinx folks and non-binary people and persons. And personally, that is, all that I refer are folks that just have very distinct, very fresh, very authentic voices. And it's been such a pleasure to see. I feel like a lot of us rise and take
Yeah.
up a little bit more space in the world, which I think get better the more we
Yeah.
share, because
Definitely.
we're having this conversation right now. Like that means somebody watching might be like, you know what? I want to do that. I want to work for a virtual event platform. I want to have my own weekly show, like you. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? Like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I know you touched on the on demand thing, and I think on demand access is so great. I mean, if you think of it, it's literally like if you watch TV and you've missed an episode of The Real Housewives and you
So
could just
good.
watch on demand. Like, I think it's so great, which is something we don't get with live events. But I think we can expect to see new recordings in the live space. Because I
Mhm.
think so many people, just like this podcast, a lot of people, the majority of our audience probably do watch on demand, and we get so much engagement post event, I guess, so to call
Mhm.
it. So I think on demand access is also so great, and also for the keynote as well. Like, you're
Yeah.
constantly getting, I guess, just engagement and awareness made.
And I will say, some of my packages for keynoting, depending on the client's preference, I will do a whole AV run through that
Amazing.
records multi-camera And that'll be actually the pre-recorded or the hybrid streaming version of the keynote, so that
Awesome.
I'm constantly like making eye contact with the camera. And then, of course, like the live stream will still be live in front of the audience and stuff, but so that we have like a recording that we can edit in and have like more of a like a permanent or a audience focused recording of it.
Yeah.
That's something I think we're going to see more of. I think we're going to see more. I like to play a lot with creative angles. I've done
Mm.
keynotes from my living room floor or opening up my freezer and looking in. So I like to play with that stuff. That stuff
Yeah,
you can't do from a stage,
so
only
true.
because of pre-recorded, can we? So
Yeah,
I agree
no,
with you.
super, super good point. And we've hit the 30-minute mark. It goes so quickly every
Oh
week.
my
I check the
gosh.
camera and I'm at the
No,
camera at the time, and I'm oh my goodness.
we need
But
more
it's been
cocktails next time. More
yes,
cocktails.
absolutely. It's been so nice speaking, Rachel. I'm sure people will want to reach out. How can they come and find you if they want some information, some advice, or just want to find out more about your keynote session?
Totally. I do hang out a lot on LinkedIn, so it's Rachel Sheerin on there. I'm not related to Ed Sheeran. That is a common question.
Yeah.
But it's Rachel Sheerin on there. And then, rachelsheerin.com is where you can find out more about my podcast, which is weekly. F this S is the name of that. My forthcoming book of the same title. And
Right.
I send out a weekly newsletter, which is half diary, half motivation and burnout prevention. All of that's on my website, rachelsheerin.com.
Fab. I'm sure people would love to reach out. And
Cool.
if you have enjoyed this week's episode, then do let us know. It'll be available on Spotify from tomorrow. And also, we mentioned Burnout. I'll just quickly pop this in here. We are actually organizing a corporate well-being event, which part of it is focused on burnout because we've mentioned it. So many people are struggling with it. So yeah, if you'd like to check it out, it's called Wellness Engaged on LinkedIn. Come and give us a follow and pop me a message if you'd like to attend. And I'll see you all next Wednesday.
You rock. Thank you so much. See y'all.